And now back to your regular programming.
If you speak better to yourself.
You showed up for probably the dumbest conversation we've ever had on this show.
Let's have that smile again.
Tell me how that happens. Physically should not happen.
Relax.
If you say
Give me as well.
3 times a day, God will line it up.
He's just an absolute hack, and he gets his ass kicked by the teammates every week. It's just terrible.
The NFL offseason's practically here. Of course, there's one game left with the Super Bowl around the corner, but it means we can talk draft. We can talk some of these coaching moves beyond the head coaching hires. And of course, it's rumor season. Who was getting into fights where? All that coming up and more on today's show. Before we get there, Sean, can you share with our listeners a quick word from BetOnline?
BetOnline has made me a bit of a dirtbag in my personal circles lately.
Made you a bit of,
yes.
Is that not already the case?
It technically was, but since I started betting on hoops, college and the NBA, I get to start antagonizing all of my true religious basketball fans, betting against their teams and laughing in their faces. It's a really good way to pass the time in these dark, cold, dreary, cold-inducing days that we are in January before the Super Bowl. BetOnline, largest selection of odds on everything. Football, NBA, college basketball. They got all the fights. They got all the hockey. Every touchdown, three-pointer, hat trick. Anything you need, BetOnline has you covered. BetOnline, the game starts here.
All right, Sean, my first mock draft of the 2025 cycle. I dropped it today on Pro Football Network. Going to be dropping more mock drafts throughout the cycle on Pro Football Network. But I sent it over to Sean, and I asked him to nitpick it. Here's my top 10, and then the remaining picks. If Sean has any thoughts and complaints outside of the top 10, he's going to say what the pick was. 1 through 10 here. Tennessee Titans taking Shedeur Sanders from Colorado. 2, Cleveland Browns selecting Abdul Carter, the edge rusher from Penn State. 3, Giants draft Cam Ward, quarterback from Miami. 4, Patriots take Travis Hunter, corner wide receiver from Colorado. 5, Jacksonville Jaguars, Will Johnson, corner from Michigan. Las Vegas Raiders at 6, take James Pierce Jr., the edge rusher from Tennessee. 7, the Jets get Malachi Starks, the safety from Georgia. 8, Carolina Panthers, Mason Graham, defensive tackle from Michigan. 9, New Orleans Saints, Nick Scourton, edge from Texas A&M. And then 10, Chicago Bears, Kelvin Banks Jr., tackle from Texas, going to Chicago. All right, what do you got? What do you got?
I'm not going to complain about number 1. I'm fine with Shedeur going to Tennessee. Number 2, this is when my first issue arose.
That was quick.
Do you think Abdul Carter is the next Micah Parsons in the NFL?
I think he's closer to Myles Garrett than he is to Micah Parsons. I think that they're very different players. The comparison is easy to be made because Micah Parsons, former off-ball linebacker turned edge rusher, same thing for Abdul Carter.
It's just that's high for.
Oh, you're not in on Abdul Carter.
I love Abdul Carter, but I need to hear unwavering confidence in Abdul Carter.
Yes, unwavering confidence.
Unwavering
He's
confidence.
The best prospect in the class.
Okay, fine. Hand up then. All right. If you believe that he's going to be Myles Garrett 2.0 lining up against Myles Garrett, I'm not going to complain because I think he's a talented player. That's not really a nitpick. I just need to know how confident you were there. I like that you typecast Cam Ward for yourself as a Giants
fan. I knew you were going to say some shit with that. I knew you were. I thought my reasoning was pretty strong here. I think that the Browns are in such of an S show at quarterback that bringing another quarterback into a locker room. Here, I didn't write this, but here's the real thought. I don't want some young man. I don't want Cam Ward having to share a room with Deshaun Watson. I don't want any of Deshaun Watson rubbing off onto Cam Ward because that's going to ruin him off the field and on the field. I don't need any of that.
Understood. I think that Cleveland may not be in total hell with Deshaun Watson if they can cut him for breaking his rehab stuff, for not wearing a boot.
Yeah, whatever. That's going to be a factor that will change.
That'll shake up when it shakes up. But yeah, I just noticed that is all I'm going to say. I was cool with 4 to 6, 4 to 7 even. I'm not going to complain about Starks, Pierce, Johnson, or Hunter. I don't like Carolina taking Mason Graham.
Why?
He doesn't help the offense, and it's a defensive tackle.
Their whole roster sucks. Their whole roster's mediocre.
I understand, but are we trying to redo Derek Brown? We're trying to get a redo here after that fail.
I don't think Derek Brown's been a fail. He's just been hurt. I think a lot of people would actually argue that Derek Brown's been.
I am very anti first round defensive tackles, especially
there it is.
Anti top 10 pick first round defensive tackles.
Okay, to answer that concern, this is, I forgot that you have that bias. This is a rare
It's not biased.
defensive talent class. The few blue chip guys, Mason Graham, Malachi Starks, Will Johnson, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, and that's probably maybe Ash Agenti had put in that blue chip mix. There's not a lot of them. So why would the Panthers reach on taking a tackle or a receiver when those guys are all middle of the pack that they could get in the second round?
Yeah, I just don't think that defensive tackle fixes many of their issues at the current moment. They can find a big body in the middle to just clog up the two A and B gaps. They could. And Mason Graham had a great career. But again, yeah, maybe it is bias. I don't like defensive tackles being taken in the first round.
Shocked. The offensive lineman doesn't want to see defensive tackles succeed.
Oh, don't worry.
Shocked.
I'm about to trash an offensive tackle here. Kelvin Banks Jr., I know there has to be a first offensive tackle off the board at some point. I'm just not that high on him.
This is another one I'm confused by because, like, I posted his tape on my Twitter, as I've been doing with a lot of these prospects. And he did the thing that always bugs me that people just do. They're like, oh, are you sure about that? That was the way that he texted me. Like, are you sure that his feet are as quick as you're saying? Yeah, they are. He's got good feet. I don't know why.
I don't think he has good feet. I've seen it. And I directly referencing the highlights that you put together for him. His feet.
You're not the only person who has this take, by the way.
I know. It's noticeable for me. And if I were to play devil's advocate to myself, I'd say, Sean, you big moron. You were saying the same thing about Orlando Brown Jr. coming out of college when he had a abysmal combine. And
Kelvin Banks is a much better athlete than Orlando Brown Jr.
I was worried about his mobility, worried about his size and speed and doing that. But Kelvin, I just watch him, and he's a big wall, and it's hard to get past him. But there's going to be some defensive ends that are too fast for Kelvin Banks, which will pose a problem, a similar problem that Chicago is facing. Like, I am not in love with him as a pick right now.
I get the concerns. I think that it's just a perspective thing on his feet. I think that some people think that he's heavy-footed. I think that he just is a hard stepper. I think that his feet are fine. I think that he actually moves well for his profile. But agree to disagree. We're not going to...
That's fine. I need him to get out of the mud a little bit. This is real nitpicky because I think he's a fine player. But I saw a bit of a push from a Joe DeLeone, my guy, very high here. Siobhan Revel Jr. at 11.
He's not a my guy.
No, it's
okay. Just because most of the ECU coaching staff retweeted me.
Hey, look, I'm not holding it against you.
This isn't like me who's putting this out there.
If I'm San Fran, I want an interior defensive lineman or an interior offensive lineman, preferably interior offensive lineman. They've had a rotating door. They make the most of what they have. And their defensive backfield, they just find gems. They don't have to go. Their scouting is so good at the defensive back level. I don't think they need to go into the first round for a talented guy that can work in their schemes.
What I would throw back at you with that, Charvarius Ward is on the way out. I think Revel is one of those dudes that is just such a freak. He's a little over 6'1". He moves like he's 5'9". It's
I love
crazy.
A tall corner. I could see myself flipping on him and being a big fan. And then you go through this stretch here where I want to challenge, but I'm not going to challenge. I'm not going to challenge G&T. I wanted to challenge Burden, but it would work in Miami. Like his play style.
He's Debo. He's built like Debo. He moves like Debo.
That would work. I appreciate you trying to get the Atlanta some sacks with Michael Williams.
Okay, so I was waiting for your thoughts on this. What do you think?
It won't happen. If Michael Williams went to any other team, he could be a 10 sack a year guy or a 8 TFL a year guy. It doesn't work in the A. I genuinely, and this is, everyone's mocking Michael Williams to Atlanta. Fine. It's 15. That's kind of when you take the second or third best edge guy. It just won't happen. They're not the brand of football, the culture. It doesn't happen. You had 1 year with Vic Beasley Jr. You've had some continued consistent success with Grady Jarrett, defensive tackle. He's getting about 8 sacks a year. And then you go back to 2012 with John Abraham. Other than that, you're not seeing 10 sack seasons out of these guys. It just won't happen.
The thing with Michael Williams, I will say, he was not a very productive sack getter in college. And I can see a world where like Michael Williams doesn't have much sack production, but is just like a really good run defender.
Hey, that's what we need, man. Oh, yeah. Freaking God.
I even referenced how they had the second worst pass rush in the NFL.
Yeah, they were real bad. And they should have had the worst, but they played a whole bunch of bad teams down the stretch. Compliment for Joe's mock draft.
Oh, I get a compliment.
You were fair about Will Campbell. You didn't just limit him to offensive guard, even though you noted that you think that his skill sets lean best guard. You left the door open for him playing tackle. I think he could play both. I appreciated it.
He's got short, stubby arms.
That was fair. His feet are insane, though. His feet and head placement, you cannot.
Stubby arms.
He's already NFL technically.
No flexibility. T-Rex arms.
He's a legit dude.
Stance is too high too. I don't like that.
I would lower him as well, but that's also a bit nitpicky. I'm not his coach. A pick I would.
I don't think he can go lower. I legitimately don't think that he can sink into his stance.
Yes, he can.
I haven't seen a rep where he's played low.
Hey,
There's no reps where he plays low. He plays high all the time.
It's because offensive linemen are lazy. If I could have stood straight up in my
I've seen some dudes get underneath
would've.
people, man, and the ones who you weren't a first round pick.
Obviously.
First of all.
Yeah. But
first of all,
everyone's dying to get in that sweet, tall 2-point stance.
Yeah, but the dudes who can sink like that are going to do it because it's kind of a flex. It's like, hey, man, I can get underneath these guys.
Yeah, and I saw Will Campbell.
Kelvin Banks can do that.
Okay, if you say so.
Hey, Kelvin Banks, this is crazy.
I got two guys, 2 picks that I'm not touching, and if anyone saw this mock draft, you just leave them alone, leave them as is. You nailed them. Tyler Warren to Denver.
I really like that one. That one got me geeked up.
Denver should just see that, lock it in, don't touch it. Same thing. Colston Loveland to the Chargers. Don't touch it. Perfect.
That one
that makes too much sense, but it's perfect. They don't have enough. They need an offensive weapon. He's a Harbaugh guy. He's a Michigan guy. He's going to play his ass off. Those 2 picks right there. Nobody needs to don't even mess around with them.
Colston Loveland being with the Chargers feels like one of those picks the whole cycle where it's going to be like, does that make too much sense? Does that make too much sense to say? And we're going to keep saying it, and then draft night's going to come around, and there's going to be all these rumors that like they're going to take this guy, that guy, and there's going to be so many different names, and then the pick is going to come in, and it's going to be, oh, hey, the Chargers drafted Colston Loveland, former Michigan tight end.
Of course they will. They should.
That's what they need.
It's a good pick.
Yeah.
It helps them on every facet and everything that they want to do also. One of my biggest challenges in the mock draft here, I think if I was putting one together, I would not have an Ohio State wide receiver in the first round. And that means Emeka Egbuka, not a first-round guy. Ohio State wide receivers have underperformed their billings as first-round wide receivers as of late.
Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith, and
underperformed Jackson Smith and Jigba. Chris Olave underperformed for his billing. Slant King Michael Thomas underperformed. The only guy who hasn't is Terry McLaurin, and that's simply because he's a third rounder. Not saying he hasn't had bad stretches, but there's not first-round expectations on him. I am not in on Ohio State wide receiver I'm not in on Ohio State first round guys. I know that they have like the craft pretty well done, and Hartline's a great coach, and he gets these guys pro ready, but they're second round guys, third round guys. That's where their value is for me. But if they're playing at Ohio State, I get why people would want to take them in the first round. It's an Ohio State wide receiver. The track record doesn't seem like they're deserving of these first round picks. I just wouldn't reach for them. It's a reach.
It's not a reach.
You think all those teams have been thrilled with what they've got out of their wide receivers?
I think Garrett Wilson's been phenomenal. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba had a good season. I don't know why.
He had a good season this year. Last year, not so good.
He was a rookie last year.
And also, Garrett Wilson disappears. And we could blame Aaron Rodgers as much as we want to.
I'm blaming Aaron Rodgers for that. Jackson Smith and Jigba had 100 receptions. What do you do? Bro, Marvin Harrison was in his rookie year. He's going to be fine. I think you're creating.
I didn't bring up Marvin Harrison. He was good. He had a good first year. He had good body control.
A lot of people were saying he was a bust. He wasn't, but I don't know. I'm not really on board with what you're throwing out here. What's the last qualm before we move on to the next topic?
Last qualm here. I only had one left. How convenient. Benjamin Morrison at 23.
You don't like that?
Well, okay, man. I get it. It's fine. Green Bay needs a corner. That's cool. But
there's not many other corners that I'd willingly take in the first round. You think I'm pushing something here?
I'm not saying
he's the only Notre Dame guy in the first round.
I know. I just remember the Michael Mayer mock when you had him all high, and he is, yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
okay.
That's just where my memory goes.
That is the only time I've overvalued and swung and missed on a Notre Dame guy. I let Ryan talk me into him. That's Ryan's fault. I'm letting Ryan wear that one.
Ryan should know.
Ryan really liked him more than I liked him. He thought he should be a top 5
stiff donkey.
He thought he should have been a top 5. That's crazy. He thought he should have been a top 5 pick.
Oh no! You know what? You stuck him in the 20s. That's fine. You kind of hit him tucked away. But throwing, it is what it is. It's just something I'm always going to take note of when you're putting stuff together. And I think it's okay. I'm not being overly critical, but it's just something I'm going to notice.
So, Sean, it was reported on today. It was on 97.5 in Houston, ESPN 97.5, that apparently there were weird confrontations that had happened between C.J. Stroud and offensive coordinator who was just let go, Bobby Slowick, who at one time was considered to be an up-and-coming riser amongst coaches. He was getting head coaching interviews last cycle, and here he is out the door looking for new work. The contentious confrontation apparently happened during the 2023 pre-draft lead-up regarding terminology that was used by Stroud. And apparently Slowick challenged him on it and tried to, give him shit by saying, I don't give an F what you call it at Ohio State. This is pro football. What do you make of this? Do you think that this is why he was fired, that they started off on rocky ground and Slowick maybe didn't even want him?
This was shocking to see because CJ Stroud, since entering the NFL, has been like a top character guy for me. And every time that he's at the podium, anytime that he's speaking, I think it's all class. I think he is just such a pro's pro, and he does everything right. And to hear this and to hear him say, to other teams, I don't think I'm going to Houston. That went really poorly. Dealing with Slowick in there, and then he gets drafted to Houston.
Yeah,
that's weird. That is two parties that are not on the same page at all. And it looks like Houston made a quick call. Said we it's either Stroud or Slowick. Hard decision to make. We'll get rid of Slowick. And if Slowick was being a hard ass and trying to start forcing all this terminology on a guy that just got out of college and he's not getting paid to learn your scheme yet. Then that's being a hard ass. But also, I could see Stroud being a bit hey, this is how I'm calling it. This is what I know, and I'm not going to bomb this entire interview because I can't. I don't know your entire language yet.
I mean, I bet Slowick was just trying to screw with him, trying to see if he'd get rattled. But I mean, I kind of just find this whole thing weird. It had to have been that there was some sort of a relationship rift between the two of them. It had to have been, and it sounds like there was not even really a relationship from the beginning. If you're not on the same page with your OC and you're not tight with them, I think that is the automatic red flag for things not working. And we saw the problems that the Texans had. Now, a lot of it had to do with their offensive line just being crap and being really inconsistent, but a lot of it is probably derived from decision-making and the flow of the offense. I think that they need to go get Chip Kelly, though. I think if they ended up getting Chip Kelly, that would resolve a lot of their... He's in the mix. He's one of their top candidates.
Chip's in the mix again.
You didn't know this? Jaguars, Texans, and Bucks are the 3 openings that he's being considered for. He's probably going to go to the NFL. That's what the latest reporting has been by multiple outlets.
I don't mind that. I like Chip. I think Chip showed some worth this year with Ohio State, and you get an Ohio State guy with an Ohio State guy. That makes sense to me. Look, the Texans offense, it was brutal. All right. Nico Collins was banged up basically all year, fought through it like a soldier. Stephon Diggs tears his ACL. Tank Dell shot in the offseason, gets healthy enough, and then severely injured at the end of the year. It all fell apart. Mixon started off hot, slowed down, and was, a guy that could stay around. I think he should be retained by Houston. He's a good veteran back. But I think everyone would kind of agree that the Texans offense did not feel as virile and as potent as it did last year. And some of that might have been Stroud rookie juice, and now we're second-year Stroud, and guys are understanding where his first read might want to be. But I think that the standard has been set in Houston, and responsible franchises understand how to uphold that standard. And if it's not working with Slowick, get someone that it's going to work with.
Well, speaking of a non-responsible franchise, Dallas Cowboys, I have never seen a franchise consistently just swing and miss on every single step of preparing for an upcoming season, looking for a new head coach. They hire Brian Schottenheimer as their next head coach, which that was met with very negative reviews. Nobody else was even considering hiring him. Nobody else was even thinking about bringing him in. I don't even think that he was even in consideration for possible offensive coordinator openings, quarterback coach openings. He wasn't in the mix for shit. And here we are, Jerry Jones. He goes with the guy that he can control and he can get the, whatever he wants out of him.
Yeah.
No idea if he's good enough to be a head coach. We know that his dad was once a head coach. Matt Eberflus, the former Bears defensive coordinator, who we have mocked for just trying to mog on the sidelines and looks maxing with his beard and not focusing on actually preparing a team to win. He's now their defensive coordinator. Now, he was once a good DC. Not a great DC, a little unjustifiable in him getting the head coaching gig of the Bears in the first place. But how is this weird, just kind of pass-off, dumbass approach to building a coaching staff that now we're with this mess?
Yeah, we got the Beard Bros in Dallas now, and they
got great chins, by the way. The two of them, two of the best chins in football.
But it's going to be tough to scheme up a defense when you're always thinking about what your GQ Sports top 10 things I can't live without would be. And that's what I think Eberflus is doing on the sidelines, trying to really be aesthetic, bro. The Cowboys are a joke. Hiring a guy that had no other interest from anywhere else is super It's literally their head coach move was bringing back Zeke. Like, that's what it is. Nobody wanted Zeke, and somehow the Cowboys decided we're going to pay for Zeke. We're gonna pay to have this guy on our team and constantly be late. And here's a coach that we're going to pay that nobody else wants and nobody else knows. They're going to be boring. They're going to be bad. And the one thing I ask for you, if you're a bad NFL team, be fun, be chaotic, be a flaming disaster, a la New York Giants, where every week you can see a one-up. There's a certain sportsmanship in deciding to up the ante in the comedy of errors that they put on.
Don't bring the Giants into this.
I'm not trying.
Giants are trying to fix their shit. They're actually making responsible, good moves. Like hiring Brian Daboll's a good head coaching hire at the time. He was a highly sought after candidate.
Why do you still have him? You honest to God, you guys might be better.
I have
with
an inkling of a belief that there's some way that Shane is the one who needed to have gotten fired. The fact that, and I yelled about this with Blake last night, the fact that the Giants could have had Saquon Barkley and Jade Daniels if they put their nuts on the table and they tried to move up. But no, they didn't do that.
Is that what you were yelling about? I heard.
He brought it up. He brought it up. It is in my head that if they got rid of Daniel Jones, they just said this doofus is not getting the job done, and they did it sooner, and they sucked like they were supposed to last year, and they had a high pick, and they got Jaden Daniels, and they had Saquon Barkley. That's the best offense in the NFL. I don't want to hear anyone talk around it. Jaden Daniels and Saquon Barkley, that's not the best offense in the NFL? Tell me that's not. Look me in the eyes and tell me that would not have been the best offense in the NFL.
You guys would have ruined Jaden, and I don't think I would ever forgiven you after how
Malik
much
Neighbors
love
doing
I have.
fine. Malik Neighbors doing fine.
Yeah, he's doing good. He's sitting at FedEx Field watching his buddy go to the playoffs. Yeah, he's doing real good. Can't wait. No.
Yeah, when we get Cam Ward, you can eat shit. Awful Falcons franchise.
I know. Have I ever stood up for that team? That awful, hideous team? No, never. They're going to bomb the offseason. It's going to be another 8-win year. Can't wait. I'm sure it's all going to go smoothly. Actually, I think this is a time in solidarity where we could agree somehow our teams are less embarrassing than Dallas Cowboys. I'd say from this
that's
point.
That's a fair point. Don't try to create common ground.
I'm just letting
you know. Who do you think you are?
From this point this
Being
year.
a dick, and then you're trying to make common ground.
To 365 days ago, the Falcons and the Giants have had more respectable seasons and off seasons than Dallas has put together. And I think that's good. I think we're trending in the right direction.
I don't know if that's a very high...
Oh, it's about as low a bar as you can set.
Yeah, that's kind of depressing and disappointing that's what we're comparing you to.
It's depressing and disappointing because Dallas used to be the big splash team, where every year you could at least...
They're got an old man on autopilot that doesn't know where he is.
It's real unfortunate.
Al Davis.
They used to be fun, and they used to at least have some drama where you could always talk about them, but it's fun talking about how bad they are, but how much are we going to talk about Schottenheimer and Eberflus throughout the offseason? They're just going to be irrelevant zilches.
I mean, they're going to just make for a lot of good sideline pictures with their chins, just wonderful chins. What would be an Al Davis, Darius Hayward Bay-esque pick for them to have at 12? Because I think I need to start doing that in my mock drafts. I need to just put disclaimer, Jerry Jones is in his Al Davis era. Here is them selecting Jackson Dart. Like something like that.
It has to be something unnecessary. I was thinking about it like if Dallas drafted Burden.
Oh no, here
that would still be quality somehow.
Here it is. Deion Walker from Kentucky. That doesn't sound crazy to the average listener, but he is 6'7". He is enormous, and he's going to test really well. But my man has not improved in 2 years. He plays high as shit he plays like a 6'7" guy would. He stands up and then he runs at people.
Why are you trashing Walker now?
I loved him, but he didn't improve. I
Walker.
put my nuts on the table and said that he was the best defensive tackle over the summer, and I was wrong. But that's what that would be a Jerry Jones pick. We need a new defensive tackle. We're going to go with the 6'7" guy.
Yeah, that's shades of Mozzie Smith pick. Maybe McMillan would be a reach for them.
It's got to be somebody who's not even in the first round conversation.
Oh.
Like if they took like Marion Hampton from North Carolina, like we need a running back. I like this Hampton kid.
You think they would reach for Henderson at Ohio State?
Oh yeah, actually, Quinshawn Judkins would be a hell of a Dallas Cowboy.
2.0. We love them Buckeyes and Big D.
At 12,
oh my God.
They would totally do that. So, I'm going to do that next mock draft. People are going to be reading that like, what the I'm just going to say, Jerry Jones has turned himself into Al Davis. This is the Al Davis move.
Yeah, you should give Cowboys pick and then Al Davis pick for the Cowboys. And then just say, hey, don't be alarmed.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah,
I have no idea if Pro Football Network is going to comply with this, but I am not going to give them a choice.
Oh, they're going to be upset about you trying to start a bit, try to get a buzz going.
I don't think people don't do bits in mock drafts.
They should.
Well, I'm going to start that. I'm going to be the first person. All right, we're going to be back on Thursday at Joe DeLeone, at Sanderson Radio, at Hack City Pod. We'll talk to you folks later. Enjoy the rest of your week.